Yellowstone National Park is one of the nation's hotspots for bears and other apex predators. So when an unsuspecting couple were warned about a brown bear lurking in the area, they thought nothing of it, resulting in a terrifying and gruesome encounter with the forewarned bear. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the brutal bear attack on Brian and Marilyn Matayoshi. Welcome to Final Affliction. It was July 6th, 2011. Husband and wife Brian and Marilyn Matayoshi were out for a leisurely stroll in Yellowstone National Park. They were following the Wapiti Lake trailhead through the east side of the park in Wyoming. It was a beautiful day. The couple had with them their cameras and binoculars. Marilyn carried a small backpack with some water and an extra sweater. The couple paused to admire the scenery, looking up into the trees for some of Yellowstone's rare birds such as the osprey, peregrine falcon, and bald eagle. Walking amongst the tranquility of nature was cathartic. Barely uttering a word to each other as they walked happily in the summer sunshine, they passed another walker about an hour and a half into their walk. He warned them of a brown bear with 2 cubs just 500 yards up the track. Brian and Marilyn thanked the hiker for this information and continued along the path. They were eager to photograph one of nature's giants. Peering beyond the trees, they spotted the beautiful sight: a sow and her cubs ambling gently through a lush green meadow. Brian and Marilyn clutched their cameras, lifting them to take photo after photo. It was incredible to see the 2 cubs frolicking amongst the long grasses while their mother lumbered along, apparently without a care in the world. When Brian and Marilyn had taken a significant number of photos, they decided to continue on their way. A little further along the path, the pair were bothered by an increasing number of mosquitoes. The air was muggy and they spent all the time swatting the mosquitoes away from their faces, itching and scratching their scalps and bare arms. They decided to turn back. They had walked quite far enough and had been rewarded with magnificent views and a variety of wildlife, least of all the female bear and her cubs. As they walked back past the meadow, they saw the bears once more. This time, however, they were much closer to the path. Brian and Marilyn had felt quite safe photographing them from a significant distance before, but now the couple froze on the spot as they spotted the large grizzly less than 100 yards away. She looked up at the pair and began trotting towards them. Terror gripped Brian and Marilyn. Adrenaline coursed through them as they had to make a split-second decision. Sign after sign along the path had warned of the dangers of the bears. All the advice strongly recommended standing still, standing your ground, making no sudden movements or loud noises if a bear approaches, and if it does attack, lie face down on the ground, placing your hands behind your neck and head for protection. But when you have 150 kilograms, that's 330 pounds of apex predator running at you, resisting the urge to run can be tricky. As the bear came at them, Brian and Marilyn struggled to fight that urge. It was an overwhelming feeling, instinct, one that cost 58-year-old Brian his life. In the seconds that the bear advanced toward them, Brian shouted, "Run!" And the 2 of them ran as fast as they could. They sprinted back along the path the way they had just come. They both continued yelling and screaming and hoped that somebody may come to their aid. No one came. Marilyn thought they were going to make it. For a few seconds, she believed the rapid retreat was working. They were outrunning the bear. Maybe it had given up. Maybe it had decided the 2 intruders weren't worth it. But when she glanced over her shoulder, she found out she was wrong. They managed to run almost 200 yards before the bear caught up with them. Realizing the bear was going to attack, Marilyn jumped off the path and hid behind a fallen tree. She looked up just in time to see the bear hit her husband with one of its powerful paws. Brian went crashing to the ground. He gave out a loud yell. The slash from the bear's paw had hit him hard on the head. Dizzied and dazed, he lay motionless on the ground momentarily. The bear cubs had followed their mother in the pursuit and now stood there growling. Then the mother bear lunged at Brian, biting his leg just above the knee. The piercing pain sent shockwaves through Brian's body. He screamed out. The bear's teeth had cut deep into his thigh, slicing through muscle and severing his femoral artery. Frozen in terror, Marilyn witnessed the horrific attack from only yards away. Then, to her utter horror, the bear walked over to her. No fallen tree was going to protect her from this defensive mother. Unable to run away, Marilyn instead lay face down in the dirt. She lay as still as she could, but she felt her legs trembling with fear. She felt the heavy pounding of her heart within her chest. She could hear its loud thumping in her ears. She squeezed her eyes shut, hoping and praying that the bear would leave her alone, but it didn't. It stepped over the fallen tree and lifted Marilyn up by her backpack. She gasped, hardly daring to utter a sound. For a few terrifying seconds, Marilyn believed that this was the end. She thought she would never see her family again, that this was how she would be remembered. A single tear fell from her cheek, and the bear dropped her. Laying still for a few agonizing minutes, Marilyn dared not move. She desperately wanted to reach Brian, but she couldn't see where the bear was. Only when she could hear nothing at all did she slowly move her head, straining her neck to look along the path in both directions. She felt sure the bear and her cubs had left. Quickly, she stood up and ran over to Brian. He was lying still on the path. Calling his name and slapping his cheeks gently, Marilyn tried desperately to bring him around. She grabbed her jacket from her pack and wrapped it tightly around Brian's leg. The gaping wound was oozing dark blood which formed a pool on the forest floor. She pulled out her mobile phone, no reception. She dialed 911 anyway, but nothing happened. She screamed for help. Her desperate cries echoed through the forested landscape. Waving the phone high above her head, she tried again and again to call for help. She dialed 911 21 times until eventually another walker came across the pair. Fortunately, the passerby had signal on their phone and called for emergency services, but it was too late for Brian. Nothing could be done to save him. Tragically, Brian and Marilyn did everything they shouldn't have done. They didn't follow standard bear protocol. They respected the wildlife they had come to see, but their actions had cost Brian his life. The National Park Service are looking at ways to better educate people about bear encounters. It seems their signs and information boards are not enough. Standard advice when coming face to face with a grizzly brown bear is to stand tall. Keep calm and talk calmly to the bear. Make no sudden movements or noises. Walk away sideways and slowly. Keep your voice low. Pick up young children immediately and come together as a group if there is more than one of you. Wave your hands slowly above your head and move to higher ground to appear as big as possible. Do not climb trees. Do not remove your backpack as this can help protect you. Do not throw food to the bear. Do not run. If the bear follows through with an attack, try to lie face down on the ground. Place your hands behind your neck and head, interlocking your fingers. Wait on the ground for several minutes before getting up to make sure the bear has left the area. The National Park Service did not destroy the bear after the attack. They concluded the attack was defensive as she was protecting her cubs and the actions of the two victims had likely fueled the outcome. However, only 2 months later, another walker was found mauled and dead. DNA evidence from both attack sites suggested the same female bear was responsible for both attacks. Tragically, park rangers decided that the 7-year-old sow must be euthanized. She was killed by simply protecting her young. The two cubs were removed from the park and sent to spend the rest of their days in the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center in West Yellowstone. After his death, Marilyn looked through Brian's belongings. She flicked through the photos on his camera, a record of a fantastic holiday that had turned out so tragically sad. She had lost her soulmate, her lifelong partner. In the split-second decision to run, her life had changed forever. Looking at the photos, tears streaming down her face, Marilyn's heart skipped a beat. The last photo Brian had taken was of the bear and her cubs, a seemingly placid, gentle giant wandering through a picturesque meadow in the golden sunshine. Less than 20 minutes later, Brian would have uttered his last word, "Run," before meeting his terrifying final affliction.